Santos over to Buddy. Healed. Rockets won't foul. Buddy dribbles up and shoots it after the buzzer. It doesn't matter. The final score of game one. The Golden State Warriors 95. The Houston Rockets 85. The Warriors have home court. And any time in a playoff series, when you start on the road, you want at least a split. And they've got that. And playing with house money coming up for game two.
Well, how about that for a start, huh? 95-85, Warriors knock off the Rockets in Houston in game one. As you just heard Tim Roy say, the Warriors, they've done their job. Now they can get greedy in game number two, but welcome into Warriors Wrap-Up. I'm Mark Randy alongside Evan Giddings with you for as long as you guys want to talk here on this Sunday evening. Happy Easter, and it turned into a hell of a day for us here in the Bay Area because the Warriors back in the postseason after missing out last year, and they get a win in game number one. 95-85 is the final score. Evan, they control Houston's offense other than the rebounds, and they win this game in a rock fight. Hell of a performance for the Warriors defensively. You got enough from Steph and Jimmy on offense, and you ride that to a 10-point victory in game one.
Well, yeah, and happy 420. It feels like the Rockets smoked every single layup in this game. I mean, they scored, I was doing math, Mark, they scored 20 points on jump shots in this game. They got, I think it was 54 in the paint, 11 at the free throw line, and the rest were on jump shots. If I have to watch Fred VanVleet throw up another boulder, I'm going to put my head through that glass ceiling. The Golden State Warriors were great defensively tonight, but the Houston Rockets were absolutely also equally abysmal offensively. And I think the Warriors, to me, Mark, what they showed in this game is that they're the more composed team. I mean, that's what they showed in this game. The Houston Rockets in their first pretty much playoff series together with this current group, I thought they looked a little bit too big for them at times. And Jimmy Butler was incredible for the Warriors. Steph Curry hit some unbelievably ridiculous shots. But as opposed to 2 Sundays ago, they handled the physicality, the demanding nature that the Rockets and that defense kind of forces you to play by. And so I was impressed with the energy the Warriors came out with. I thought it would be a low-scoring game.
You're right.
But I gave a little bit too much credit to the Houston Rockets. So the Warriors did their job. They stole home court, and now they can get greedy on Wednesday.
Yeah, the Warriors scored 95 points, and they won this basketball game. To put that into context, and I know that postseason basketball is a little different than regular season, but to put that into context, entering today, the Warriors were 2-13 when scoring sub-100 points this year. So 99 or fewer points this year, they were 2-13. When they would score 95 points or fewer, and they scored 95 tonight, before tonight, they were 0-8 when scoring 95 or fewer, and as a result, 95 points today in a win, the fewest points the Warriors have scored in a win all season long. So they did this on the defensive end, and honestly, I was thinking about this, Evan, and I see a very similar thought process on our Boxer and Gersten work injury attorneys text line while the game was going on. Kind of love looking back at the running commentary as the game was happening. This series potentially being a rock fight, you feel like that favors the Warriors because you feel confident even in a rock fight, Steph and Jimmy might combine for close to 55 or 60. And you do that, you only have to score 90-ish to win. You don't have to work that hard, or it's not that difficult to find the spots to score the other 30 points and win a basketball game. Obviously, it's not going to play out as it went tonight in every single game. But if you're going to get like what the Warriors got from Steph and Jimmy today, and the Warriors are going to hold a Houston team to what do they shoot from the field in this game?
Not good.
39% from the field. Sub 40% from the field, and you get 31 from Steph and 25 from Jimmy. You're going to need some other scoring, but it's no longer like you're going to need Pods and Moody and Draymond and Buddy to all make shots. And so much of that just goes back to the Warriors defense, who was phenomenal in this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think that their defense was good. The Rockets were also just horrific when it came to shooting the basketball tonight. But it's not even about if you can get, let's say, 65 points from Curry and Jimmy like they did, or 55 points like they did from Curry and Jimmy tonight. I just don't think the Warriors, people have this, idea that they're not a physical basketball team because they're led by Curry, who's a point guard, and he's this light-skinned guy who shoots a lot of threes, and Draymond Green's a smaller center, and they play with a lot of smaller players in general. I mean, there was a time where in the fourth quarter, it was Curry, Podziemski, Gary Payton II, Butler, and Draymond against, so literally the smallest lineup that the Warriors could throw out there against the Rockets' biggest lineup of Jalen Green, Amen Thompson, Jabari Smith Jr., and then their two big, Steven Adams and Alperen Şengün. And they were able to hang with them. Now, yes, they got battered and bruised in the third quarter, but even when they went small in the fourth, they still found ways to kind of push back against the Rockets' physicality. So I just think that people don't give the Warriors, they look at them as this, I don't know if it's soft team, but they look at them as this small group that has to win with finesse. And tonight was a night where I feel like combined with the composure they showed, they did show a lot of grit. And they made a lot of hustle plays down the stretch, combined with some physical, again, taxing plays that were necessary to beat a very good Houston team.
No, you're right. They did get battered on the glass, and specifically the offensive glass. 22-6 was the edge. Now, I think a lot of people are going to be throwing, that's the offensive rebound edge for Houston, and second chance points was 22-12. I think a lot of people are going to throw out that 22-6 offensive rebound edge for Houston, as in the Warriors are a terrible rebounding team, and you're talking about physicality. They're not very physical, and they're not really battling down low. And Steve Kerr, we're going to hear from Steve Kerr a little bit later on, and there is probably some truth to that. The Warriors could have been better on the glass, but you just mentioned those lineups. You got 6'11", 6'11", 6'10", and then Amen Thompson, who, if playing the 2 guard, oftentimes he's playing the 4. That's as big as a team could possibly get almost in today's NBA, and the Warriors are countering with an incredibly small lineup. You don't want the edge to be that drastic in favor of Houston, but I would be shocked, Evan, if the Rockets don't have an offensive rebounding edge and most likely a second chance points edge in every single game of this series. Warriors don't have to win that battle to win this series. They would like it to be a little bit closer, but they don't have to win that battle to win a game.
No, and I don't think they have to win it to win the series. The most important battle they have to win is the turnover battle, which they did win tonight. And in fact, the reason why I felt like Houston was able to get back into this game, the Warriors go up by 23 midway through the third quarter after Steph hits one of his many ridiculous shots. Yeah. And Houston gets 3 straight turnovers, one of which was just a dumb turnover on the baseline, another of which was a steal, and then they get a third one, and they score on all 3 of those possessions. And one of them was, in fact, just like a prayer thrown up by Şengün, which is one of their, 6 threes they made in this game. So the Rockets...
6 for 29.
They got kick-started on their mini run, or long run at the end of the third quarter by the Warriors being sloppy with the basketball. Yep. So to me, the bigger problem for Golden State is not, all right, how can they match the twin 7-footers of Houston, or how can they make sure they don't get absolutely blasted on the glass? It's how do they make sure they take care of the basketball? And I thought for about, let's say, of the 48 minutes, 43 minutes, they did a pretty damn good job of that. But that 5-minute stretch in the third quarter is where this game began to get a little unraveled for them.
Yeah, Warriors committed 14 turnovers. The Rockets committed 17, so the Warriors won the turnover battle there. The Warriors also took those 17 Houston turnovers and turned them into 25 points off of turnovers. The Rockets took the 14 Warriors turnovers and turned it into 23 Warriors turnovers. So the Warriors won both the turnover battle and the points off of turnover battle. Marginally, barely won them, but they won them. And that's important, especially on the road. And then you get the crazy shot making of Steph and Jimmy Butler kind of icing the game, playing over 42 minutes. Steph playing nearly 40 minutes himself and essentially the entire fourth quarter. And the Warriors needed it because it was kind of unraveling there. Again, you mentioned up by 23. It was 66-43, 6:20 to go in the third quarter. Then Houston gets all the way back within 4 at one point with a little less than 9 minutes to go in the fourth. And then the Warriors kind of take it home. We're going to spend so much time talking about Steph and Jimmy, what they did down the stretch. Podziemski had some big moments in the fourth quarter. Moses Moody hit his only 2 shots in this game, were huge jumpers in the fourth quarter. One, a fadeaway from the left side, late shot clock, and then another off a Curry double team, a Podziemski drive and kick to Moody in the left corner. He hit that one as well. It wasn't the most prolific scoring day, Evan, for the others, but when things got tough, and then when it was winning time and you needed a bucket from somebody, Moody stepped up. Podziemski had a big offensive rebound tip that freed up a Draymond lay-in. Some of the Warriors' others, you're not going to immediately point to them as reasons why the Warriors won this game. But when they were needed, they had a couple of big shots and were a big reason why the Warriors held on down the stretch.
No, I think they are the reason why the Warriors won this game. Obviously, in addition to Butler and Curry, but you need those guys to make plays. And I thought we talked about this on Warriors Live. Like, my two biggest questions were those two players coming into this series because they don't have much experience, if any, in the playoffs. And while they waited until the waning moments, specifically Moody, to get it done, they stepped up when they needed to. And that Moody three, specifically the last one, like, I thought we saw those two kids, for lack of better terms, grow up tonight. And when Moody had the corner three, which he took with no hesitation with about 2 minutes and 30 seconds left in the ball game, which ended up being the dagger, I immediately thought of the three that he missed against the Dallas Mavericks very close to after Jimmy got here. It was the first game they lost. It was the only game that they lost for quite some time.
When Kyrie went off.
Yeah, but they started like 8-1 or 9-1 or something. And that shot that Moses Moody missed in the corner would have helped probably ice that game or put it away. I think it might have been a tie game, or they needed him to make that shot, and he couldn't hit it, and it was wide open. And it was a similar situation where the game's not over if he doesn't make that three, but then Houston's got a little momentum because they dodge a dagger. They can go and make it a one-possession game, and he makes it an 8-point game with that shot. A big shot for Moses Moody following that fadeaway jumper that you talked about. I thought Moses stepped up when the team needed him to the most. And then for Podziemski, he was a team best, plus 17 in this game. He was their leading rebounder in this game. And when you don't have a bunch of 6'10", mega athletes to combat Houston, you need different guys to scrap. And so while Pods didn't maybe have the most defining moment like Moses Moody did down the stretch of this game, both of them overall I thought were really solid.
Yeah, they were. And you mentioned the phrase that you use when describing that Moody corner three to kind of ice the game, no hesitation. That was the biggest thing for me. Obviously, you want him to make it, and in that moment, you kind of needed him to make it. But there were some moments early in the game. You and I both noticed this watching the game together here in the studio. Moody was a little hesitant offensively to begin this game, and not necessarily shocked by that. I mean, he has played in the postseason before, but his first playoff start was tonight. Played major minutes in a postseason game really for the first time. He played over 28 minutes, or just under 28 minutes in this game today. There was a moment in the first half on the left wing. He had Fred VanVleet on him on the perimeter. That's a matchup that Moody should feel comfortable in, using his size and get a bucket. Maybe you back him down, you draw a double team, you pass, just gain an advantage somehow. And he had no interest in dribbling, putting the ball on the deck, and doing anything. Kicked it out to the left corner, late shot clock, turned into I think a wild shot that missed. And then Houston got the rebound and went the other way. There was a moment in the third quarter, I think, where he had the ball late in the shot clock and then ultimately threw the grenade out to Draymond in the final second of a possession that turned into a failed possession as well. So the big thing for me, Evan, obviously the make and the miss is important, but just seeing Moody in that moment, in rhythm, not hesitating, taking it with confidence, and then, of course, he hit it, which was big. But I'm with you. I think we saw those two, specifically Moses Moody in my eyes, really grow up in that moment, and that was big for the Warriors. Jimmy Butler, the closer. I mean, man, Jimmy Butler was good down the stretch in this one. He played an all-around game, 25 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, and 5 steals. Played 42 minutes, and he did not seem tired at all. I guess that's the benefit of having 4 days off before this game and having 2 more days off after. But that 1-2 punch, that combo of Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler, they showed out today. And you get those two playing at that kind of level, 31 from Steph, 25 from Jimmy, it's going to be difficult for the Warriors to lose many basketball games when those two are playing like that.
Yeah, I was talking about this yesterday with my guy Devone, and I felt like Jimmy Butler had to be the best player in the series for them to win against Houston. I know Steph had 31. I know he hit some ridiculous shots, including maybe as far as degree of difficulty, that one from the wing to put him up. Was it the one that put him up 23?
I think it was.
Yeah, that one was 12 out of 10. I mean, that was an impossible shot that he hit.
In a career full of impossible shots, it's up there. I don't know where it is.
I don't want to go through all of them because he's hit like a million.
I would say 4 hours.
But of this season, it's certainly one of the toughest ones that he's hit. And even in spite of that, Jimmy Butler, in my opinion, was the best player in this game. And he did everything they needed. He also had 5 steals in this game. Like, he got to the free throw line I think he was the one that broke the 19-3 stretch that Houston had by just getting to the free throw line, because the Warriors went like 4 minutes in the third quarter without scoring. And that's where he's just a little bit different. He's someone that can score off the bounce. He can get to the free throw line. I thought, well, Curry, and I do want to get to Curry and Amen Thompson. Jimmy Butler also urinated on him too tonight. There was back-to-back possessions where he took Thompson into the post, had a little shimmy fadeaway over him, and then the next possession down sticks a three in his eye and is looking at him afterwards. Like, this is, we have had, obviously, inklings and sort of previews of playoff Jimmy. It was play-in Jimmy. There was game 82 Jimmy, but he was playoff Jimmy tonight. And if this is what you're going to get from him, along with obviously Curry, it's what makes the Warriors really scary, man. And overall, this is a big win for them. Like, you steal home court, the ball is in your court, literally. Yep. The Warriors can now manage this series the way they see fit. They can get greedy on Wednesday. And Jimmy Butler is, looking like a pretty freaking good trade at this point.
It's a hell of a combo. Steph and Jimmy, we got to see it for the first time in a playoff game. Not a play-in game, but a playoff game. All right, we got plenty of time for your calls all night here on Warriors Wrap-Up. That's Evan Giddings. I'm Mark Randy. Warriors beat the Rockets 95-85 in Houston. They take game one. They steal home court, and that stat you read to me earlier. What is it? Warriors are 20-1 under Kerr.
The Warriors are 20-1 all time when they win game one of a series. The only series that they lost was 2016 in the finals.
The 20-1 series record when they win game number
under
one.
Under Steve Kerr, they have not lost a series when they've won game one. That's the stat. Unless, outside of 2016.
Outside of the series that we don't bring up.
Outside of the 3-1 collapse.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
pretty darn good. 21 is
lock it up, Grandy.
20 and
lock it up.
Okay. So let's go out to your phone calls. We got plenty of time for your calls all night here on Warriors Wrap Up. Sean in Petaluma starts us off. What's up, Sean? How you doing?
Hey, what's going on? How you guys doing?
We're doing good, man.
Dope. Happy Easter. Oh.
Yeah, happy Easter to you too, and happy 420 or all that. But I was just gonna say, I think what really was best about it, or like good about this win, is at the end of the game how it seemed like we just turned it up on them, like even in the last minute, and it's just like Houston's gonna be thinking about this because we came to play, and Jimmy turned it up, and pause. He's lately that guy to just come through with the offensive rebound out of nowhere, like literally AirPods. So I'm a fan. Warriors in 4. Shout out, y'all.
Hey, thanks, Sean. I love your confidence. Cool.
Well, I don't know if I'm that confident. I don't know if I'm that confident.
You locked it up. He just took it a step further. Warriors.
Well, I think both you and I had Warriors in 6.
Yeah,
right.
We did.
Yeah.
It seems cleaner with the Warriors finishing it off at home. Although I guess they could finish it off at home in Game 4 too. Game 4 and Game 6 are the two options to close out the series at home. Let's continue here on the phones. Jay is in South San Francisco. He wants to talk about this Warrior win. What's up, Jay?
How you guys doing tonight?
We're doing great.
Fantastic.
Is JK ever going to play again?
Is that all you want to talk about, Jay? You got something else? We'll address it, but is there anything else you want to talk about?
No, I am a little concerned about our bench depth. Kind of like what Mark's intro was. They got some productivity from the role players tonight, and I know they probably play better at home, but I don't know if it was a one-off or what have you. But I'd like to see more production from Post and GP and stuff like that. Pods, he's pretty consistent. Moody made big shots, but in the playoffs, I think every point counts.
Yeah, appreciate the call, Jay. I mean, you're right. Every point does count, and on the bench, the Warriors had 14 bench points today. But when you hold your opponent to 85, it isn't that important. Now, there will be games where the Warriors need more scoring elsewhere. I'll be honest with you, Evan. My mind, I didn't spend a single second thinking about Jonathan Kuminga in this game today. Now, would you like to see Buddy Hield make a couple more shots? Quentin Post hit a 3 in his limited action? Yeah, for sure. But bottom line, tonight, you didn't need it. You won by 10 and only scored 95 points because your defense was so great.
No, and I mean, look, Anthony Slater reported it before the game. Kerr essentially made it be known that Kuminga is not going to be a part of the
planned rotation
unless something happens like foul trouble or maybe a mid-game adjustment. For example, if they had lost, like, I don't know, if they got blown out tonight, maybe you think about different ways to do things. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm sorry. Like, Jimmy Butler played 42 minutes tonight, was 10 for 19 from the floor, was freaking awesome all around. That's the spot that Jonathan plays. And until he gets on the floor, I respect that people believe that he can add in different ways and he might be able to help. But until that happens, I'm not going to talk about him because he didn't play tonight.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line. I would rather spend time talking about players that did play, that contributed to a Game 1 double-digit victory on the road, 7-2, that now sets you up to win a first-round postseason series for the first time in 2 years. That's what I would prefer to discuss.
Yep. Pretty simple. You mentioned it. Jimmy played 42. Draymond played 37. Steve Kerr said that the lineup with those two and JK doesn't work. It's hard to find minutes for him there. And as you mentioned, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And it certainly ain't broke. Warriors led by as many as 23 in this game, and they won by 10. Bottom line is you just got to win basketball games. It does not matter who's on the floor and who's contributing. You just got to win basketball games, and the Warriors won a basketball game tonight. Okay, time for a quick break here on Warriors Wrap Up. When we come back, plenty more time for your calls. Plus, we will hear from Warriors head coach Steve Kerr, who has addressed the media in Houston after this Game 1 win. Adam, I see you. Roque, I see you. Rich, I see you. We're coming to you next as we continue on Warriors Wrap Up. The Dubs win Game 1 in Houston, 95-85. Game 2 Wednesday at 6:30. We got plenty more to get into. It's Evan Giddings, Mark Randy with you. Warriors Wrap Up continues next on 95.7 The Game.
it, gets it to Curry. Curry with 2, with 1. Fade away up and good. Curry willed that ball into the bucket, and the lead is back up to 10. I mean, wow. 28 for number 30.
Now back to Warriors Wrap Up on 95.7 The Game.
So much for Amen Thompson, the Curry stopper, am I right? Steph with 31 points, 12 of 19 from the field, 5 of 9 from downtown, 6 rebounds, 3 assists. And by the way, he began this game 0 for 3 from the field. All were threes. And then something that you pointed out on Warriors Live was Steph get going from inside the arc. And then he did that, and that unlocked everything else. After he was 0 for 3 to begin the game, 12 for 16 from the field and 5 for 6 from downtown, leads the Warriors to a 95-85 win over the Rockets in Houston in Game 1 of the West first round. 2-seeded Houston, 7-seeded Golden State, and we're breaking it down here on Warriors Wrap-Up. Welcome back. I'm Mark Randy. That's Evan Giddings. Just another simple 30-point performance for Steph Curry tonight.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's 4 days of rest. No, it just is. Like, seriously, you can tell when Steph has fresh legs by how many shots he takes from 2. Against Houston 2 Sundays ago, he took 2 2-point shots. Tonight, after he missed his first 3, he got into the paint, and they were top-locking him. They were overplaying him. The paint was available, and you saw fresh legs. You saw a non-fatigued Steph. You saw a guy that is 100%, and he immediately gets, I think he made his first 5 twos. He ends up 7 of 10 from inside the three-point line, and then everything else opens up from there. And again, he hit some ridiculous shots. He hits the fading shot from the corner. He hits the 34-footer in the fourth. He does what he does. But you're right. Like, if there's like a body bag worth of Curry stoppers at this point, it's what was going to happen, right? Yep. Like, I wrote this. There was a couple of things that were said about Curry this week, and I guarantee you he knows all of them.
Of course.
It reminds me a little bit of when, remember, he had a goose egg at the FedEx Forum in December.
Yep.
Next time he goes back to Memphis, he has a 50-burger. And it's just something that he always has penciled. Zach Lowe of The Ringer. Love him, respect him. Quote, there's a possibility that Amen Thompson is a true nuisance on the level we've never seen in a playoff series for Steph Curry. That's Zach Lowe. Stephen A. Smith of ESPN. Steph is going to have a very tough time with Amen Thompson. And these are things that in some way, shape, or form have been said about Matthew Dellavedova, about Marcus Smart, about Davion Mitchell, Jared Vanderbilt, Patrick Beverley, the list goes on and on. If you are on that list as a Curry stopper, at some point, Steph is going to get the better of you. And Amen Thompson played one of the best defensive games I've ever seen against Curry in the regular season. Now we're in the playoffs. And Amen Thompson, he made a great defender, Curry did tonight, look very average at best. And he was awesome. So no shade to Amen, but this is when the big boys play. And Curry is one of them. And he showed it again tonight.
Yeah, 0 for 3 to begin, and then he closed the first half by making each of his last 7 field goal attempts, including the last 2 from deep. He finished the first half with 16 points, had 15 more in the second half, 31 points, 12 for 19 from the field, 5 for 9 all told from downtown. He was good, and you pair that with 25 from Jimmy Butler and that Warriors defense, and that's just about enough to win this basketball game. All right, it's Warriors Wrap Up. Evan Giddings, Mark Randy with you. Let's go back out to the phones as promised. Adam has been waiting patiently here in the city. What's up, Adam? You're on Warriors Wrap Up. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good, guys. How are you?
We're doing great.
Glad to hear it. What a game tonight. Obviously, I think what we forget about that last matchup where Curry only had the 3 points is, Jimmy only took 7 shots that game. We knew coming into the playoffs he was going to be a more aggressive player. What we've seen from now, that Clippers game, the Grizzlies game, and now this first playoff game in a series, I mean, Jimmy wasn't going to be that much of a non-factor, and it's starting to show what it's going to do for the rest of the team. But what I wanted to highlight tonight, too, were the other guys. Moody only had 7 points, but 5 of those were in the fourth quarter off of 2 huge shots. Pods was kind of streaky tonight, but you know what? He still ended up, 14, 8, and 5. played his role well. I'm hoping Post can have a bounce back game. But just what a team ever. When they were up 23, you didn't think they were going to win by that many or more, but they went on that run. They steadied the storm, and it all worked out. So just hell of a start.
Yeah, appreciate the call, Adam, and good points. I mean, we were all watching the game here in the studio together, and at a halftime, we were all talking, thinking, all right, I mean, Houston's going to make their run at some point. They're a good team, hosting a playoff series. They're fired up. They're going to make a run at some point. The Warriors just first happened to make it a 23-point lead, and the run was maybe a little bit bigger than I was expecting. Houston got all the way back within 3 points at one point in the fourth, but you just got to weather that storm, and the Warriors did that. And to Adam's point, they did it with a couple of big moments from some of the others. I mean, Curry hit a big three to help seal it. Jimmy had a couple of buckets back-to-back, but it was a Moody jumper, a fadeaway jumper, and then a Moody corner three. Pajemski, offensive rebound tip, leading to a Draymond second chance lay-in. Everybody contributed down the stretch for the most part. And that was really, really good to see. But you know that Houston was going to make their run at some point. And then when you get into that clutch time, Evan, you get into that winning time is something that we talked about on Warriors Live. In those clutch moments, in those nervous arena moments when all of the Toyota Center is on their feet and they're scared of another heartbreaking Steph shot, I think the Warriors, that's when they're the most confident because you have the two best players on the floor in those moments in Steph and Jimmy Butler, and you have two dudes who have not necessarily single-handedly, but been the driving force behind reasons why their teams have won close games in the postseasons in their past, and they showed again why you do have the two best players on the floor in those moments. I think the Warriors have a gigantic advantage in clutch time in this series, and that bore out in Game 1 as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'd also be pretty confident if I felt like the team I'm playing can't make a shot that's not a layup, a dunk, or a free throw. And even they went 11 of 20 at the stripe, so they can't even make free throws.
True.
Like Houston was, I understand the Warriors closed them out tonight, but they had so many opportunities to do it. Houston, their two best players were Şengün in this game and Adams. Adams was awesome on the glass, and that's pretty much his role for this team. Şengün only scored 4 points in the fourth quarter. They couldn't figure out ways to get him the basketball. He was largely ineffectual in the second half, and everyone else stunk. Like the Houston Rockets outside of Şengün and Adams were awful tonight. Jalen Green was ineffective as usual. He has not played well against the Warriors this season. Fred VanVleet was he couldn't throw a stone into the ocean tonight. And
2 for 13 from deep.
And I thought Amin Thompson was also pretty bad in this game. Like I think he came out, he committed a turnover, he missed his first 2 free throws. And then at the end of the first quarter, Jimmy Butler started to kind of carry the second unit past him and the rest of that good Rockets defense. Dylan Brooks was their best 3-point shooter tonight. He went 2 for 5, but overall, he wasn't that great either. Nobody on the Rockets left an imprint on this game, and I don't know if it's going to be the same way moving forward, but it did feel like the only way the Warriors were going to lose tonight is if they gave away the game. And they tried to do it a little bit in the third quarter. I think 5 of their overall 11 turnovers came in that third quarter, which is what kind of kickstarted Houston's run. But at the end of the day, it could have been Moody who hit a big shot. It could have been Pods. It could have been, Gary Payton. It could have been Guy Santos for all that mattered. Who it wasn't going to be is anybody shooting the basketball for the Houston Rockets. They were not going to make a shot, and the only hope that they had was trying to clean the glass. So, in a way, it's like they got out-rebounded by 16 on the offensive glass, but they kind of had to. Like, that was the only way that they were going to score in this game.
Yeah, offensive rebounds and turnovers was like really all Houston could do in order to gain, decent looks at the rim. They had some good looks, but looks that you were confident in them making. I mean, VanVleet and Jalen Green, who, by the way, Jalen Green did not close the game. The Warriors, he played so poorly that he had to be benched down the stretch. Those two, Fred VanVleet and Jalen Green, combined to score 18 points over 71 minutes of basketball. They went 7 for 34 from the field and 2 for 17 from downtown.
Oh my
Yikes.
God.
You're not going to win basketball games when your starting point guard and your starting shooting guard do that.
By the way, I did overall enjoy the game. Like it felt, I think Kerr talked about it. I know we're going to hear from him in a little bit, but it felt like an old school game.
Yeah.
And not to say that like Houston is just, going to miss everything. But that was the kind of game it was tonight. The Warriors had to hit enough shots, and they had more capable shooters, should we say, than Houston tonight.
Houston will be better from the field. in future games, I think the Warriors will be better on the glass in future games. The Rockets got up 11 more field goal attempts than the Warriors. The Warriors made 2 more field goals, though, than the Rockets on 11 fewer. The Warriors shot 47% from the field. The Rockets shot 39% from the field. The Rockets, they just dominate the possession battle because they get so many offensive rebounds. They get more shots on goal up, but in this game, it was not enough of an advantage there to make up for the disadvantage they had at nearly every other spot. All right, back out to the phones we go. It's Warriors wrap up here on 95.7 The Game. That's Evan Giddings. I'm Mark Grandy. Dubs win game 1 in Houston, 95-85. Up next is Rich in Fremont. Rich, what's up? How you doing?
What's up, guys? Thanks for taking my call. Evan, what's up, man? Long time no talk to.
How we doing, Rich? What up?
I'm doing good, man. Hey, man, feeling it on a Sunday. And, hey, the guys, they went into Houston.
Yeah.
And we all know Houston brings problems. That's what they do. And they get it done. And they get it done on their floor. And that's a relaxing relief. But, the thing is, at the end of the day, I look at everything and I say, okay, positive win, nice win. They get it done. But when every positive, there's a negative.
Mm-hmm.
And tonight, my negative, I'm sorry, guys, and I hate to do this because I like the guy, but I'm not happy with Buddy Hield. I'm just not. Okay, I'm not. And with tonight, his game, and by the way, the last few games, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. When was the last time Buddy did a 20-point game? I haven't seen one in a while.
Charlotte.
This is a guy. I'm sorry, what?
My guess would be Charlotte. It's been about a month.
Okay, yeah, and that's my point. It's like, come on, guys. At the end of the day, we all know what Buddy got brought on for. He didn't get brought on for his defense. Let's keep it real. It's like, Buddy, you're here to hit shots. And if you're not hitting shots, then guess what? You're not helping us. You're not. Because guess what? In the next big game, if Buddy's shooting like this, look, there's a higher percentage we're going to drop a game. Because understand, let's keep it real. We won tonight. We wanted to win. We got the win. But, hey, this is the number 2 seed in the Western Conference. Let's keep it real. They're long, they're athletic, and they can play. Yes, we got the drop on tonight. And, yes, we want to continue to see this. But at the end of the day, hey, they're number 2 for a reason. So, Buddy, if you're not putting up shots, guess what? You're not contributing. We need your contribution, Buddy Hield. I hope you're listening, because guess what? We need you to contribute. It's nice that we got the win. It's nice that the other guys stepped up and hit some shots. But, Buddy, we need you out there hitting shots. You're the third contributor. We need to have that from you. And so, in my opinion, nice win. Like to see that done. And, oh, by the way, you people listening, if you get close to 95-7 the game, you got the privilege I got, because I got to meet Evan Giddings' parents at the Warriors 7 here in Fremont at Fremont Bank. Hey, cordial people, very, very nice people. I was a privilege to be here to meet those folks. And Evan, thank you very much to be here to meet you and your parents. Thank you so much. And by the way, 95-7 the game, guys, Bay Area sports here locally. Love it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Rich. By the way, I think my mom's listening, so that does mean a lot,
Hey,
Rich.
there we go.
Hey, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Rich. She liked meeting you, too. Buddy Hield.
Did you look it up? Last time he scored 20 points in the game?
He did score 20 points against Charlotte, but do you know the last game he scored 20 points?
I looked it up. It was against these same Houston Rockets.
Yeah, it was against the Rockets. In a loss. In a loss.
It's like the only time Buddy scored 20 in a loss this year for the Warriors.
Yes, because Curry scored 3. It doesn't matter how many points you score. It matters how many points the chef scores. Buddy is interesting. Like, I actually think that a little bit of that tonight was just simply Houston. Like, we talked about this before the game. Houston does not allow teams to take a volume amount of threes. And one of the reasons why they can test the least amount of threes in basketball is because you just don't get them off. And they let the bad three-point shooters shoot. And whenever you have a guy that can shoot on the floor, they try to get in their jersey. Curry obviously neutralized that by shooting very long and difficult three-pointers to make him tonight. But Buddy Hield is not someone I want putting the ball on the floor. So I actually think that Buddy tonight played a game that I would prefer, which is not forcing anything. The only guy that I was disappointed that didn't shoot more tonight was probably Quentin Post, and I would attribute that to it being his very first playoff game in his rookie season And he was like, for example, Moses Moody. He looked a little hesitant at the beginning of his minutes.
Yeah, the Buddy Hield conversation to me has always been a pretty simple one. He's far from a perfect player, but he is like a necessary player the Warriors have to trot out there every single game, because he can win you a game if he just catches fire and he hits he goes 5 for 7 from deep. And that's going to happen. Like he's going to make 4 threes in a playoff game at some point. Like I feel pretty confident that's going to happen at some point. And Steve Kerr always knows that he's going to get maximum effort and energy, and he's going to run the floor, and he's going to try his darndest on defense. Although it's not always the best, he's not gifted defensively in that way. But Steve Kerr knows the kind of effort and the energy that he's going to get. What does hurt is he wasn't charged any official turnovers in this game, I don't think. No, he wasn't. But he had back-to-back possessions where he kind of fumbled the ball into a bad spot and ultimately resulted in a Warriors turnover, but they weren't charged to him. He can't be having moments like that. But it's not a coincidence that Buddy is on the floor, or was tonight, when the Warriors made their runs. Because at the very least, he demands you draw attention to him. He was a plus 17 in his first 9 minutes of this basketball game, even though I don't think he made a shot. But when Jimmy was running with Jimmy and the boys, Jimmy in the second unit, just him and Santos and GP2 and Buddy, Buddy's a part of that group. So I know that he himself has not been scoring a lot lately, and he makes some mistakes that are a bit head-scratching. He is a necessity for this basketball team. He is. And even if he's not making shots, he's also just spacing the floor and making it easier for Jimmy Butler to get in the paint.
And Curry.
And Curry. And it makes it easier to get Curry looks as well, because even though Buddy Hield, we as Warrior fans, our experience with Hield has been hot and cold and largely cold, he does still demand a certain level of respect. And aside from Steph, and Quentin Post is getting into that realm, but aside from those two, Jimmy is by far one of the Warriors' 3 best shooters, either second best or third best, however you feel about Quentin Post, and he demands a lot of respect from defenses still. Okay, back out to the phones we go after this Warrior win, 95-85 over Houston in game number 1. Roque is up next. What's up, Roque? You're on Warriors Wrap-Up with Evan Giddings and Mark Randy. How you doing, Roque?
Yes. Hey, what's up? Thank you for taking my call. Hey, before I start on my note here, hey, the previous caller before Adam, talking about Jonathan Kuminga. You know what? Call about the winning, not about the person who didn't play. Okay, I mean, I like Kuminga. Please talk about the winning we had tonight. Thank you. But anyway, you know what? I call about Draymond Green. This guy is like an Iron Man. I mean, he scored 4 points. He's all over the floor. He took out 3 big men there. You know, Smith. You got Steven Adams, and you got Sengun. I mean, it's all over tonight. I take this guy as man. I mean, he is so great tonight. I mean, he didn't score that much, but then again, you got some help. You got some help from Jimmy bucket. Okay, I mean, Curry, he did some crazy shots tonight that made a difference, and also Moody, he had some shots at the most crucial time. And Buddy Hield, he did some damage there in the crucial time too. Those two did crucial time moment, and that's I think those are the one that kind of crippled Houston. Okay, and I mean Steve Kerr, he did some movement there, and he was juggling all this lineup, and I really liked what he did. And if what's his name, Banfleet. If he only was 2 for 11 to 12, and that was good. We played D on him. But if he would have made 5 for 11, the game would have been different. If Banfleet was up tonight, and what's his name, Thompson, he wasn't on Curry tonight. I know Kerr was up for a while. Then, like I said, he did some crazy shots tonight. Oh my God, I had to watch that again. But everything was pretty much glued together for the Warriors. I mean, you know, Kuminga, if we would have lost tonight, I would say I'll be seeing him next game. Okay? Thank you for taking my call.
Yeah, appreciate it, Roque. Yeah, I mean, if Van Vliet was 6 for 13 instead of 2 for 13 from downtown, this game would be different.
If the Rockets weren't allergic to nylon, then we would have been able to talk about a game that was closer. But that's also why, again, when we talked about it before the game, I felt like this would be a lower scoring game because it's the first game of the playoffs. There's more nerves. The Rockets aren't a good shooting team anyways. I didn't think they'd score 85 points, which is their season low, right?
Although, I can check for you.
I thought I saw that somewhere on social media. Although if they had scored fewer than 85 points based on tonight, I would not be shocked because they miss a lot of shots. But yeah, Fred VanVleet, is he going to have better shooting games? Well, they're going to need him to if they're going to win a game in this series.
It is indeed their lowest scoring game of the year. 85 tonight, 86 versus Boston. Their next two lowest scoring games versus the Warriors. 91 and 93 versus the Warriors in 2 games earlier this year.
Yeah, somehow they won one of those games.
They did. They won 91 to 90, and then they lost 99 to 93 to the Warriors. Yeah. But, I mean, Warriors have an answer. Not that this is like a crazy offensive team, but the Warriors don't allow Houston to score points on them often. 3 games of the 6 they've played versus them this year, they have scored under 95 points. Under 93 points, 93, 91, and 85. 3 of the 6 games versus the Warriors this year. Another 98. In 4 of the 6 times they've played the Warriors, they've scored sub 100. In today's NBA, that's pretty wild.
No, but I think it's also a reason why the Warriors are a team that people believe can make some noise. It's because you have to win different ways. And there's probably a game in this series that the Warriors they might have to win another sub-century mark affair in order to advance past the Rockets. But they'll probably crack 110 at some point. The Rockets might get to 120 at some point. You're going to have to win 4 games in all probability 4 different ways. And so this is a great start for them. They had Batman and Robin, whoever's wearing which mask, lead them. And then the others, the role players on the team, just had to make enough plays. And to their credit, they did that tonight.
Yeah, they did. And the Warriors rided to a victory. Final score in Houston, 95 to 85. Let's keep it rolling here on the phone lines. 888-957-9570 as Warriors wrap up. Rolls on here. Junior is in Pacifica. Junior, you're up next. How you doing? Junior.
Night.
Give us a call back, Junior. Let's move on to Mark in San Francisco. Mark, you're up. How you doing?
I'm doing great, fellas. You know, I got a question for you. Steve Kerr won his 100th playoff game tonight. Is there any other coach you'd want coaching the Warriors than Steve Kerr? And do we take him for granted?
Good call, Mark. 100th career postseason victory for Steve Kerr. He joins these head coaches as the only others to reach that feat. Phil Jackson, Pat Riley, Greg Popovich, Doc Rivers, Eric Spoelstra, and Larry Brown. I think absolutely Warrior fans in general take Steve Kerr for granted. And no, I don't think there's any other head coach I'd want coaching this Warrior team right now.
I'll take Auerbach.
He did not get to 100 wins in his career.
Which
99.
Which is why I picked him. He's
Steve
not
Kerr
on that
just
list.
broke a tie with him.
Yeah, well, but also to be fair, I mean, you had to win 2 series back in the 50s. You know,
That's fair.
Well, but that's why he's got, 10, 11 championships or something
but
like
only
that?
99 career postseason wins.
Exactly. So I'll take the guy with the most titles.
All right.
Or I guess actually I think Phil's got 10 too. But hey, Kerr is a player and a head coach. He's working on number 10 if they get it this year.
Yeah. 9 championships for Steve Kerr as a player and a coach. All right, time for a quick break here on Warriors Wrap Up. When we come back, we got more time for your calls. Alessandro and Isalim, I see you. Plus, we will hear from Coach Kerr as well. Plenty more to dive into. Warriors win in Houston, 95 to 85. It's Warriors Wrap Up. We continue. Evan Giddings, Mark Rennie with you. More next on 95.7 The Game.
to 7-point lead for the Dubs. Big-time basket.
Now back to Warriors Wrap-Up on 95.7 The Game.
Yeah, that Moses Moody 3 put the Warriors up 7, 2:23 left in the fourth. Maybe not quite the dagger, but it was pretty close. The rest of the way, it was Jimmy Butler. After that, he had an offensive rebound put back off a Curry drive and miss, put the Warriors up 9. Then Jimmy, after a defensive stop, kills the entire shot clock, hits the mid-range over Şengün to go up 11 with 1:03 left. And at that point, it is game over. Warriors win game 1. They ultimately win by a final score of 10, 95-85, the final. Welcome back, Warriors Wrap-Up here on 95.7 The Game. Evan Giddings, Mark Randy with you. We're going to hear from Coach Kerr in a little bit, but Evan, first I wanted to play this piece of sound from Steph Curry for you. Curry on TNT. You were telling me about this soundbite. I haven't heard it just yet. Steph Curry asked about what Jimmy brings to the table. Here's the chef.
Jimmy's nice. Don't get that twisted. He's carried teams to the finals, and the idea of what he brings to us is another guy that's just comfortable with the ball in his hands to create for himself and for others. No matter what the situation is, you saw plenty of times he kind of made something out of nothing. You know, he is a legitimate ball handler where we can give it to him in space, on the post, at the elbow, wherever, and teams have to respect him. So if I can space and give him room and just again keep the defense honest, that helps. And we've had a really good chemistry since he's been here.
That's Batman talking about Robin, or is it Robin talking about Batman?
Whoever it is. I don't look at that's another reason why the Warriors have a shot. Curry doesn't have to be the best player every single night for them to win in the playoffs, which is a pretty rare thing. Jimmy Butler had an all-around awesome game tonight, and 25 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 steals. He only had 1 turnover. Jimmy Butler, it was maybe not the, ball-dominant 40-point playoff Jimmy that he has and possibly could be in the future, but he's exactly what the Warriors needed. And I thought that after a shaky start to the game for Golden State, Jimmy sort of settled things down, as he tends to do during the non-Steph minutes. They were +9 in the first quarter, in the beginning of the second period, and really helped them establish what eventually became and pushed to a large lead. But he's just a calming presence out there. He's someone you always feel good about having the ball in his hands, and he ended up being the nail in the coffin with those 6 points in the final, 3 minutes of the game. Yeah. And he's a big reason why they're up 1-0 and they stole home court. Yeah, Warriors got down 7-0. They got down 13-5. They ultimately then go on a 31-13 run, aided by a 14-5 burst while Steph rested that you pointed out, +9 while Steph rested for the first time in this game. They led by 13 at half. The lead quickly got up to 23 points in the third quarter. Houston climbed all the way back within 3 in the fourth, but then Moody and Podziemski and Steph and Jimmy, they iced this game and the Warriors win by 10, 95-85. Okay, Coach Kerr postgame coming up, but let's clean up this last call. But we still got more time for your calls before we get on out of here tonight at 888-957-9570. But E. Salim has been waiting patiently out in Chicago. What's up, E. Salim? How you doing? My dog.
What's going on, my brothers? What's going on? I appreciate you guys for taking my call. I know it's been hectic out here, but I just want to say thank you, fellas, for taking my call. And first and foremost, man, go Dubs, go Dubs.
Yes, sir.
Go Dubs. We won game 1, and that's what matters, regardless how many mistakes we made. I got to give a lot of shout outs to Jimmy G Buckets. The G stands for get, because that's all he does is get buckets. Man, this guy had 21 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, and 5 steals, most importantly, meaning that he was just doing everything. He was everywhere, despite, the lineups that we have, the smaller lineups. I do think, as far as the cons, that we still got to, try to get some type of bigger lineup out there so we can get more defensive rebounds, because the way we play defense, they can't have that many second chance points. I'm concerned about that, but I feel like, just it's playoffs time. They remind me of like one of those 1997 games, 95-85. This is what you want. Like Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. That was Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler out there, and Steph Curry making adjustments throughout the game. It was all on him, but he still managed to get his points, did what he did. So overall, man, I'm just so excited about what's happening. I know everybody want to talk about who we didn't play and things like that, but at the end of the day, man, you gotta just see what Steve Kerr is doing. Steve Kerr, regardless of who's out there, he makes every player believe that you can win the game, and that's what matters, regardless who plays and who doesn't play. And until every player on the team thinks that same way, that's what it's all about. Kerr's a champion, so I'm going to ride with Curry until, things go left. What I will say before I do get out of here, game 2, we got to get greedy now. It's not about just taking the first game. Let's try to get the second game too, keep that same momentum because Houston is coming and they got a lot of energy. We're not going to play the guys that we should play. At least the guys that's out there continue to keep playing hard, keep them moving. Let's get these dubs. Keep it up. 15 more games left.
Yeah, appreciate the call. Salim, 1 win down, 15 wins left in order to win another Larry O'Brien trophy. I think Salim talking about the Steph and Jimmy combo is interesting because one thing that we've noticed specifically of late, and we've seen maybe this in bits and pieces earlier in the Jimmy Warrior era, but specifically like Clippers, Grizzlies, and this game 1 versus Houston, when it gets like to a tough moment for the Warriors, whether the opponent's on a crazy run or it is like clutch time and you desperately need a bucket, like when the offensive possession is of the utmost importance, the Warriors will often just throw the ball to Jimmy, clear out a side and say, all right, Jim, go get us a bucket. Like we get to the free throw line, get it. And the Warriors rarely ever do that when Steph is on the floor. But that's how good Jimmy is. And the way that they are on a game planning around what Jimmy does is so refreshing because we haven't seen it like that in a really long time. And I think it also goes to show just how selfless Steph is as a star and as a leader of the franchise. When you get in moments like that the Warriors from top to bottom are deciding, let's just clear out a side. Jimmy, go get us a bucket because we know that's like the easiest way for us to get 2 points. And more often than not, in these clutch moments, he has answered that call and did that again to close the game tonight.
Yeah, but I mean, and you can also rely on them in a situation like setting the tone for a game. Like clearly, the Warriors, specifically their younger players, they look nervous at the beginning of this game.
They did.
And Houston came out with a lot of energy. Şengün was punishing at the beginning of this game. He had like 8 and 5 in the first 5 minutes of it, and it looked like, wow, he's gonna have a big night tonight.
Gonna go for like 24 and 12.
And Curry and Jimmy had 12 of their 18 points in the first quarter. Steph had a couple of bad misses on open threes. Then he starts to get into the paint. Jimmy Butler is able to force his way to the rim. Didn't settle for much, I thought. And it's funny because the way, at least for Jimmy, the way that I look at his game, it's almost inverse to Steph. Steph's game offensively starts outside and moves in, and that's what we saw tonight, whereas the 3-ball wasn't falling, and then he gets to the rack, and eventually the threes start coming. Jimmy Butler's game, he likes to start by trying to attack and put pressure on the rim, whether it's get to the free throw line, which they didn't do much of until the second quarter, but getting easier baskets, and then you'll see him start to take some of those mid-range shots. He had a late shot clock jumper over Şengün in the third quarter. He obviously hit a 3 over Amin Thompson. So it's kind of refreshing to watch both of those guys work their way in and out at the same time to the point where by the end of the game, either of them can kill you from any spot of the floor. And that's what also makes them dangerous.
Yeah, pretty good combo. It's turning out to be Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler. All right, 888-957-9570. Still more time to get your calls in if you want to join the conversation here on Warriors Wrap-Up after the Dubs beat the Rockets 95-85 in Game 1. They led by as many as 23 in the third. Houston got back within 3 in the fourth, but the Warriors hold off the Rockets and win Game 1. They're up 1-0 in this series. Game 2, Wednesday at 6:30 right here on 95.7 The Game. Okay, let's hear from Warriors head coach Steve Kerr addressing the media post-game in Houston. Here is Warriors head coach Steve Kerr.
You guys were as physical as you need to be. Did you prepare them for just time to be as physical as possible? And what did you think about just the physical nature of this game?
Did I prepare them for...
Did you say this is going to be physical, so...
No, I didn't mention it at all. I totally forgot to tell the team that Houston is really physical and great on the glass, but thanks for the reminder, and I'm gonna mention it before Game 2.
You should. How do you rate your guys' ability to be physical and to try to pry with that game?
Well, I mean, that's obviously their advantage in the series is the size and athleticism and the offensive rebounding. They had 22 of them. We can be better for sure, but they're going to get offensive rebounds in this series. They just are. So we have to keep playing. The possession doesn't end until we get the ball, so we got to keep fighting. I thought there were several loose balls that we didn't grab with two hands with force, so we'll look at those. Similar to the Clipper game last week, where the ball's bouncing around, we're trying to bounce it one time, or maybe we get a rebound and we're so anxious to get in transition, we throw the ball away. We can't have those. If it's a half-court game. I really think our defense can get the job done in this series. But so we can't be, turning it over. We can't give up, a million offensive boards, but they're going to get some for sure.
I was going to kind of ask you about that. I'd say the times you were most upset tonight seemed to be on the...
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Times you were most upset tonight seemed to be on a few of those kind of sillier turnovers. I mean, is that kind of what you are hammering in this series? That is, if it's a clean game, you guys have the advantage.
Yeah, it's they're the best team in the league in the possession game. They got 11 more shots than we did tonight as a result of all those offensive boards. Now we're going to turn them over too, and our defense is excellent. I mean, we just held a hell of a team to 85 points on their home floor. So our defense is big time, and we're going to count on that. But we've got to recognize that we don't need to take chances in this series. We need to be clean with our execution and transition. We don't need to dribble through traffic. We don't need to throw lob passes, to try to get a dunk. We've got to be rock solid. And if we're smart and tough, then I think we're going to be in good shape.
What do you think about the way that Steph handled Houston's defense, missed his first three shots? What got him going, do you think?
He was incredible. And, with that type of pressure on him from Thompson and others, he just made some amazing plays and obviously carried us offensively along with Jimmy.
Steve Kerr, post-game in Houston after the Warriors knocked off the Rockets 95-85 in Game 1 of their series. West first round, Houston the number 2 seed, Warriors the number 7 seed. Houston was a slight favorite, according to Vegas, to win today. The Warriors, though, not super heavy favorites, but a noticeable favorite to win the series overall. I would imagine those numbers have jumped after this Game 1 win for the Warriors. A couple of interesting notes from this one. This is the Warriors' lowest scoring game in which they've won. They scored 97 points in a home win versus the Knicks earlier this year, but 95 points in a win tonight, the lowest fewest points they've scored in a win this year. Entering today, they had been 2-13 when scoring under 100, 0-8 when scoring 95 or fewer. And how about this as another statistic to add into the mix, Evan? Remember, the Warriors had won a road game on 28 consecutive playoff series before 2 years ago in the second round when they failed to do so versus the Lakers. Add in today's win, they've now won at least one road game in 29 of their last 30 postseason series. That goes all the way back to the Mark Jackson era when the Warriors went to the playoffs in the 2012-2013 season and the 2013-2014 season. They won a round, lost a round, then lost the first round the following year. They won a postseason road game in all of those series. Did it in every Steve Kerr series until that Lakers series 2 years ago, and I've done it once again today. So another streak beginning. They're going to win a road game in 28 consecutive series again beginning tonight.
If they can play in 28 more series, I'm with you. If you can ensure me that Steph Curry is playing until age 55 at this level, I think they might
give
be
it
able
a shot.
They might be able to get it done. But no, to your point, I mean, the reason why you can win a road game in as many series as that, it's because of the word that Steve Kerr was screaming at Draymond Green and Steve Kerr during that first half. Poise. And it was just a dumb, stupid turnover where Curry's trying to fake out Thompson and Green throws it past him and Curry's not looking at him. And I thought it was, I wrote this down. I love the timeout there. Excuse me. At the time, it was a 4-point game. The Warriors obviously had an advantage. There was the miscommunication. and the Rockets, I think, had got 3 straight baskets. Yeah. And Kerr just lays into his stars. And that's the kind of mutual respect that not many teams have, especially not championship teams. Like, the whole reason why I think that Steve Kerr and a lot of his messaging works, it's because he's as tough on his best players as he is on the 15th man on the roster. And I understand that there's a lot made about the favoritism from Steve Kerr, and he likes these guys over these guys. Well, if you mess up, it doesn't matter if you're Steph Curry or Draymond Green.
You're going to get it.
Are in the crosshairs. And he kept screaming poise at them, according to Anthony Slater, who also asked him about that after the game. That was the most frustrated that he was. And I thought Kerr, despite the 23-point lead dwindling down to 3, I thought he coached a pretty good game. There was another timeout that he called in the second half that I thought was also a good spot for it as well. And it was after they turned it over 3 straight times, which kind of kickstarted that run for the Houston Rockets. And again, those kinds of in-game, just settle down moments, but also using them to establish a level of expectancy for the best players on your team. That's why Steve Kerr's got 100 playoff victories. That's why the Warriors have won 28 of 29 series with a game on the road.
29 of 30 now.
29 of 30 now. It's because they have someone that sets the tone at the top, and they have players that are willing to play with that level of mutual respect for their head coach.
Yeah, and that rough turnover, the kind that you were describing, the one where it was the Draymond inbound to Steph, and Steph looked away at the exact moment that Draymond threw him the ball, and then the streak of 3 consecutive turnovers in the third, which began the Houston run right after the Warriors went up 23. It was a similarly frustrating turnover by Draymond, where the Warriors got to stop, and they got a defensive rebound, believe it or not. They grabbed the defensive rebound, and then Draymond trying to find an outlet. I don't blame Draymond for trying to begin the fast break, because they had some success getting out and running in this game, but he kind of got caught in the air under his own basket and trying to find an outlet. There were 2 tall Rockets who were just standing there and easily knocked down his pass. He got caught in the air and had to throw it. Threw the ball away. It resulted in a Tari Eason easy layup, and that was the beginning of the 3 straight turnovers, the 7-0 Houston run that precipitated the Kerr timeout you're talking about. So it's moments like that. And yeah, Draymond can turn it over like that. Steph can turn it over like that. 8 turnovers versus the Clippers, and he can draw the ire of Steve Kerr, but he's going to go back to those guys, and then they responded, and they helped the Warriors win this game 95-85, and they win game 1, they steal game 1, they have home court advantage now, and as Steve Kerr mentioned, as our callers have mentioned, as you mentioned, now they have an opportunity to get gritty and to go up 2-0 on Wednesday in game 2. Okay, let's go back out to the phone lines here, 888-957-9570. Jake is in Santa Cruz. What's up, Jake? How you doing?
This is Joe from Santa Cruz.
Oh, sorry about that, Joe.
Thank you for taking my call.
What up, Joe?
No worries. Hey, great win tonight, great result. I'm a little concerned around the rebounding, specifically the offensive rebounding, and I'm curious what you guys think, because I just don't see Houston shooting that bad and or not converting on all those shots. So, styles make fights. Do we keep at it with the same lineup and kind of speed versus and moving forward with our our offensive alacrity, or do you think we need to mix it up in the trenches a little bit to try and win a little bit more there? Specifically the offensive rebounds, 22-6. That concerns me over the series. So I'm just curious of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, appreciate the call, Joe. And if you were to circle like the one concerning aspect of this game, it wasn't that you lost the rebounding battle. It's just how you lost it and by how much. You got out-rebounded on the offensive glass 22-6, and the second chance points were 22-12 in favor of Houston. I think you're probably going to lose the rebounding battle almost every single game of this series. You hope it's a little closer, and you hope you don't give up as many offensive rebounds. I think, Evan, specifically on the offensive glass, some of that is inflated by just how bad some of the Houston shots were. There were some air balls. There were some shots that barely ticked iron, and oftentimes those tend to go to the offense. There was also a stretch in the third quarter or the second quarter, maybe in both, where the Warriors went to zone defensively, and it's harder to box out, to find bodies when you're in zone because you're not man on man and you have to go and find a body to box them out. Now, the Warriors were really good on zone. They didn't really allow much points against that zone, although they didn't really allow many points against any defense. But I do think there's reason to believe the Warriors won't get beat as badly on the glass in future games. And to answer Joe's original question, I don't think we're going to see a major change in terms of lineups that Steve Kerr is throwing out there. Although we did for a moment see Looney and Post on the floor together. Is that the first time they've ever shared the floor? It might be. I don't think we're going to see a drastic change in the overall strategy. They just got to execute a little bit better on the defensive glass.
Yeah, I think that was twofold. You can build a little bit of extra rest in for Draymond at the end of those quarters. I think it was at the end of the end of the first and end of the third quarter. We sort of saw that when the Rockets went big. But the Warriors, again, we talked about this earlier, but the Warriors trotted out their smallest lineup possible against the biggest possible lineup for the Rockets. And the only time I felt shaky about their chances was when they weren't taking care of the basketball. If the Warriors are crisp and clean and do not give extra chance, mention how they won the turnover battle tonight. The other battle that was very important was in the fast break, 16-4. The Warriors only allowed 4 fast break points against, and I think both of them were on breakaway dunks off of steals, off of just live ball turnovers. So that tells me that overall they did a really good job tonight of not allowing Houston to turn them over during possessions to get some easy baskets. Yep. And then basically just accepted the fact that Houston's going to take more shots than we are, and we don't think that they can make enough. And while I agree with our caller, Joe, that Houston's probably going to shoot better, I don't think that they can shoot well enough over this series unless the Warriors give them extra opportunities to beat them straight up. Like if this is a game that is, they take more shots than they get more possessions than any other basketball team. That's just what they do. But if it's not incredibly drastic, they were plus 16 on the glass, but they only took 11 more shots than the Warriors. That's something that you might just have to live with in a series like this, because I'm going to dare Houston to make enough mid-range or three-point jump shots to beat me. And I just don't think they can do it 4 times out of 7.
And if the Warriors do happen to, say, out-rebound or at least are much more competitive on the glass, just imagine what the final score would say. GP2 did some imagining himself.
How about that? What a grinder of a game, huh?
Grinding. We got to do better boxing out and rebounding. If we rebound, we win that game by 20 plus.
There's GP2 with Tim Roy postgame here on 95.7 The Game. I mean, if they box out, they take care of the glass. He's probably right. They probably win this game by 20.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if Fred VanVleet wasn't thrown at a closed rim, the Houston Rockets might have won this game. Yes, I understand that, but the Houston Rockets missed so many shots. I mean, my God, dude. It was hard. I told this to you during, I think it was the second quarter. It was somewhere around halftime. I'm like, if I'm a fan of the Rockets, I realize they're good, but that has got to be the most frustrating basketball team to watch. It's like watching an NFL team that runs the ball 50 times a game and wins every game 13-6. You're winning games and you're a good team, but they're just maddening. And they're an old school squad, and it's gotten them 52 victories, and kudos to them. But come playoff time, you got to put the ball in the hole. And Houston tonight, well, I think they'll do it better, obviously, than 85 points, a season low for them. They have to prove to me that they can score semi-efficiently against a defense that, since Jimmy Butler's gotten here, I think has been top 3 in defensive rating, right?
I think so. Yeah.
If not number 1.
They've been amazing. I also think, VanVleet was 2 for 13. He's probably not going to go 2 for 13 again. And Jalen Green didn't make a 3, but these are also players that I'm sure when the Warriors are planning for this game, they're saying, all right, we can't take everything away. We're going to try our best to pack the paint and make it tough on Şengün. He was still really good in this game with 26 points and 9 boards. But we're not going to give Dylan Brooks the open 3 looks. We're going to allow the open 3s to Şengün. He made 1 of them, took 2. We're going to allow Amen Thompson anything he wants on 2s, on jumpers and on middies and on 3s. We're going to allow VanVleet, and we're going to allow Jalen Green to shoot. And we're not going to allow Dillon Brooks, their 40% shooter from deep, to get open looks. And he was 2 for 5, but you can live with the best three-point shooter on the opposing team only making 2. The rest of the team made 4 threes take away Dillon Brooks's 5 attempts. The rest of the Rockets went 4 for 24 from downtown. Like, this was also kind of pick your poison, and the Warriors allowed the right shooters looks from deep. Now, Van Vliet is going to make more than 2 for 13 the rest of the series. I feel pretty confident in that. Jalen Green might make 1 or 2 a game. There's certainly that could happen. But these are like 33% shooters from downtown over the course of the season. So I think a lot of this was also strategy by the Warriors in determining, all right, we're going to give up some open threes. Who do we want them to come from? Not Dillon Brooks. Almost everybody else we'll allow to shoot a couple of threes.
Well, but 29 threes in 2025 is not that many three-pointers. I mean, Jaylen Brown was also 3 for 11 inside the three-point line. He couldn't finish around the rim. You look at what Amin Thompson was unable to do at the free throw line, which is make a single foul shot.
0 for 4.
Tari Eason I think he's a big swing player in this series. He was 3 for 10, missed all 4 of his threes. He's had some big games against the Warriors this season. So their guys are going to play better, and that's why I still think that this has the potential to be a long series. But you brought up a really good point in Warriors Live about the lack of experience. And what I think we saw tonight from Houston is they needed to grow up, and they needed their best players to grow up quickly, which they could not do over the course of a 48-minute game. The Warriors needed Moses Moody to basically make 3 or 4 plays throughout this game to get them a win. And to his credit, he did that. But he didn't have to grow up in the limelight. He didn't have to be a star in this game. He had to be a piece. Brandon Pajemski, I thought overall was solid in this game, but he didn't have to be one of the stars. Jalen Green and Alperen Şengün have to be stars, and only one of them was tonight, really for just the first half. And I thought the biggest difference for the Warriors, the biggest win for them defensively, was figuring out a way to neutralize him, or at least to slow him down, because it looked like after the first quarter, this guy was going for 40 tonight.
Yeah.
And he only ended up with 26 and 9, which, based on his first period, is probably chalked up as a win.
Yeah, first half for Şengün, he had 16 points and 6 rebounds, so 13 shot attempts in the first half and 16 points. Şengün in the second half, 10 points, but only 5 field goal attempts. You're the offensive centerpiece of your team.
He was the best player on the floor
by a mile. And you get down big in the second half, and you only get up 5 shot attempts in the second half. That speaks to the Warriors finding the answer and not just making life tough on him, but not even letting him get any shot attempts up. And I think that's where we got to credit Draymond Green and what he was doing defensively. It was interesting, though. There was a lot of time in this game where Draymond was not one-on-one on Şengün. There were a lot of other defenders that guarded him, and Draymond was not buried, but like off on Steven Adams, and just helping off of Steven Adams, because you can do that. Now, that part of the reason why Steven Adams was getting so many offensive rebounds was because they didn't really have a body on him often on offense, but it allowed Draymond to kind of freelance, which is where he's his best and can help everybody else defensively. And that's a big reason why the Warriors only allowed 85 points to the Rockets in this game today. Junior is back on the line. Junior, what's up? You're on Warriors Wrap Up. How you doing?
All right. Thanks, you guys. Hey, a couple comments and a question. The comment on Kuminga is we're kind of stuck because we haven't played him. It would take him, maybe it's like 10 or 12 minutes of game time to get his feet back under him, and we don't have that in a playoff game, right? So it's, I think we're stuck, and I hate seeing it, and I hope we get to see him again in the Warriors uniform on a NBA floor. With his contract situation at the end of the year. It is really depressing. I can only imagine to only score 85 points in an NBA playoff game against a team like the Warriors. These guys are going to be questioning, the meaning of life right now. And it might be a good time for the Warriors to go for it and try and pile on and win in Wednesday on the road, too. It's great they control their series, and it's great that the Lakers don't control their series. I'm not predicting a winner in that series, but it could be a long and ugly one, whereas ours is right now looking nice. Of course, that team has some, our opponents have some a skill. But I wanted to ask, I don't watch other teams than the Warriors all that much, and I'm sure you guys do. So with the Rockets, what have they got that we didn't see tonight that they can grab onto to keep afloat? Because, again, 85 points not going to do it against the Warriors in a playoff game. So what else do they have to either slow us down or speed themselves up?
Yeah, appreciate the call, Junior. And before we get to that, I did want to remind you that you're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco, and Odyssey Sports Station, always live on the free Odyssey app and now broadcasting live from the Laughing Monk Studios. Well, I mean, the Warriors have actually had some success versus the Rockets this year, 3-2 in the regular season, including a couple of wins in Houston, one of which was with Jimmy Butler, and in a couple of wins, by the way, also without Steph and Curry, and one without both Steph and Jimmy. So this is a Warrior team that has had some success versus this Rockets team. I think we just have fresh in our memory 2 weeks ago, Rockets come into Chase Center and to kind of control that game and take away Steph. He was 1 for 10 from the field, only for 3 points. And we compare that to what happened today. One of the differences is the Warriors had an opportunity to game plan. It's a postseason series. And they had a plan of attack for this Houston team. They found a way to get Steph Curry free, and they had a more aggressive Jimmy Butler. And the game plans go two ways also on defense for the Warriors in this one. I think a lot of it is the Warriors having an ability to game plan for an opponent. And when you give the Warriors the opportunity to plan and to devise a scheme of attack against an opponent, they generally are better than how they show in the regular season. Now, in terms of a Rockets counter, I think it's pretty simple, Evan. I mean, they're going to have to find more creative ways to get Şengün the ball like they didn't do in the second half, but they're just going to need their guys to make more shots. I mean, the Warriors' defense was good, but there was also a lot of open, makeable shots the Rockets just simply missed.
Well, and that's why I don't know this for sure because he's been phased out of the rotation a little bit, but I would guess that we'll see Aaron Holiday in game 2. He's their best three-point shooter that did not play. And I think he had a 20-point game right before the end of the regular season against the Clippers. Like he's played for them. He played 62 games this year. And, two of their best three-point shooters by percentage didn't play tonight. Jeff Green's the other one. I don't expect him to play. But Aaron Holiday is someone that I think we'll probably see a little bit of. And the reason being is because, to your point, you just need more three-point shooting on the floor. And while I do respect Ime Udoka's opening strategy, which is basically we got our 8 guys, this is who we're rolling with. Nobody played less than 25 minutes in this game, even though Jalen Green, for example, didn't finish. But I think he's going to have to open up his rotation a little bit more because you got to find somebody who can make shots. And the Warriors did enough of it tonight, but if they scored 90 to 95 points again, I think it's going to be tough to beat them twice doing that.
Yeah, you would expect the Rockets are not going to score 85 points again in a game. Even if the Warriors play an elite defensive game, you're just going to have a little bit more shot making. Speaking of the Warriors defense, though, here is Steph postgame on TNT with the NBA on TNT crew when asked about the Warriors defense.
Versatility, I mean, the competitiveness, I think me, Draymond, and Jimmy, I try to hold up my end on the bargain on the defensive end, but those two guys, obviously Draymond, Defensive Player of the Year in our book, they quarterback the defense, and then you got two guys in our starting unit who are young, but are super competitive. They put their nose on the ball. They understand how to, get in the fray a little bit. We just got to rebound a little bit better. Houston really tried to make that a point of emphasis, and they missed a lot of shots, so they were just crashing, left and right. So if we can do a little bit better job there and then get in transition, I think it'll be even better performance on that end of the floor.
And Curry talking about Jimmy, Draymond, and himself setting the competitive tone defensively, but he also shouted out the Warriors youngsters in the starting 5, Podziemski and Moses Moody. We've given Moody some props for what he did offensively late in the game. I also think he deserves credit for being at least a part of what took Jalen Green out of this game. I mean, that was his matchup to begin this one, and Jalen Green, leading scorer for the Rockets in the regular season, about 21 points per game, 7 points, 3 for 15 from the field, and did not close. It wasn't Moses Moody like every single second that was on him, but that was Moses Moody's guy, and he did not even for a second let him get going in this game.
The Warriors haven't let Jalen Green get going against them ever.
He had a big fourth quarter 2 weeks ago. But other than that, he had a couple of threes in the fourth. I think he had like a 10-point fourth quarter, and that was by far the best stretch of basketball he's played versus the Warriors.
Yeah, I mean, over 5 games this year, he's averaged like 13.5 points. I mean, he has not cracked the code of Golden State. So whether it's been Moses Moody before the deadline, Andrew Wiggins, Kuminga, who even played against him when he was in the rotation, and Gary Payton II has been a good on-ball defender, was again tonight. They don't let him do what he wants to do, which is largely drive, throw his body into the fray. And that was another part, too, about this game that I thought was interesting. We saw a lot of whistles at the beginning of the third period, but I think overall the referees did a pretty good job tonight of letting both of these teams play. And I thought it went both ways. There was a lot of situations where the Rockets were trying to just barrel into bodies and draw contact, and there were some no calls. And conversely, I thought that Jimmy Butler was limited a little bit tonight, whereas in the regular season, some of his grifting abilities would have got him to the free throw line, but he only took 6 tonight. So I think the referees kind of set a nice tone that this is going to be a series in which you're going to be allowed to play. And that is another positive sign towards Golden State, where I think a lot of people initially, if the whistles are going like that, would favor Houston. However, again, just because they take jump shots and they're a little smaller doesn't mean the Warriors can't also get physical. So I liked how the defense and specifically the referees also benefited them tonight.
More on the Warriors defense. Brandon Pajemski postgame with NBC Sports Bay Area, who of course also had the broadcast here locally. Shout out to Fitz and Kalena. We were watching them and listening to them here in the studio. Here's Pajemski talking about the Warriors defense.
Everybody talks about Houston defense, but we're just as capable and we're just as good on that end too. Whatever style we got to play, whether it's fast and letting Draymond and Steph play chaotic basketball in their way that they do it, or slow down and play through Jimmy. Whatever we got to do to win the game is what we're going to do. But I was more impressed with just limiting them to 85 points, taking away what they really wanted to get to, and I think if we keep them off the glass there, they don't even score 70.
That's just a classic Pods line right there. They wouldn't even score 70 if we could rebound the damn basketball.
They did look a lot like the Houston Cougars tonight. I'll say that. The Houston Cougars
all defense.
Yeah, all defense, no offense. This is a good suggestion from the 408 on the Boxer and Gerson work injury attorneys text line. Rockets could just go to initially Steven Adams and just decide to try and play bully ball right from the get-go. And, I mean, I think it was a little overrated how big they appeared to be during their 19-3 run in the end of the third quarter, because the Warriors offensively also just couldn't really generate anything. But that's also an option for Udoka. Instead of trying to go smaller or space the floor with more shooting, you just lean into what you think can kind of bruise and punish Golden State. I don't think that would work. We've seen teams in the past in many regular season and postseason series that have tried to go big against Golden State, and when they go small, it typically works, but that's something as well.
Yeah, it's an option, but okay, let's play that out for a sec. If they start both Şengün and Steven Adams, you're going to put Steven Adams on Draymond, and then you're going to hide Şengün on Moody. That's where Moody's importance. And Şengün was guarding Moody in the first place anyway. That's why Moody consistently hitting shots in this series would, I think, really give the Warriors another level, because the Rockets are going to hide Şengün on him as much as they possibly can, and hide them on him isn't fair to Moses Moody. He has the ability to take advantage. But if he's not hitting his shots, the Warriors are allowing the Rockets to hide Şengün on him, and they're not taking advantage as a result. Like what happened against the Grizzlies was Zach Edey on Jimmy Butler, and the Warriors were able to take advantage of that over and over and over. Now, obviously, Jimmy Butler is a much more accomplished offensive player than Moses Moody, but there will be room this entire series for Moses Moody to do damage offensively. He just has to take advantage. And he did in the fourth quarter, but up until that point, he did not. And that allows Şengün to kind of just not chill, but not be a major weakness for the Rockets defensively.
Yeah, I think to me it speaks to a larger question that Houston's going to have to answer between now and Wednesday, which also I think favors the Warriors because they get a full 48 hours of rest in Houston. But how much of what makes you great, which is your defense, are you willing to sacrifice to try and create offense? And if you just feel like tonight was a one-off and you missed a lot of shots and that's why you lost to Golden State, I think that they'd probably be better served trying to find some sort of balance. But if their defense is more swarming in game 2, I don't think the misses that we saw tonight in abundance are going to hurt them as much. To me, again, I just feel like whoever controls the turnover battle and wins that is going to win this series. And generally, it's when you have a team with a guy like Jimmy Butler on it, he takes care of the basketball. And I know that they got hurt a little bit last time they played in the regular season by it, but I just don't think that there's many 3-point games for Curry in the cards. And especially over 2 weeks, you're trying to beat the Warriors 7 times. It's going to be really hard to do unless you start to make them into what has hurt them in the past, which is a mistake-prone team.
Yeah.
And tonight, the Warriors did not make enough mistakes.
Final few minutes with you here on Warriors Wrap-Up. Let's get to our Crashing the Board segment, which is brought to you by Chilton Auto Body, the Bay Area leader in collision repair. You shouted him out earlier for leading the Warriors in rebounding. Brandon Pajemski, 7 boards to pace the Warriors, or 7 defensive rebounds, 8 total boards to pace the Warriors. Jimmy Butler had 7 himself, 6 for Steph and Curry and for Draymond Green, but it was Brandon Pajemski, one of the shortest dudes on the floor, led the Warriors in rebounds with those 8. He gets the honor of crashing the boards, again brought to you by Chilton Auto Body. More post-game sound. How about Jimmy Butler talking about Steph and Curry, and I think he calls him Batman again? Let's see.
Like I always say, Batman comes out of nowhere. You never see him coming, then he just falls from the sky, from a building, behind the door, and does some incredible things, man. He's going to be the reason that we do win it all. We all know that, but we got to protect him at all costs.
That's Jimmy postgame with TNT again. He is not shy about passing the compliments around to Steph Curry. He knows how to endear himself to a fan base. I'll give him that.
He's a suck-up. He's a suck-up. But actually, he did have another quote. I don't know if it's in one of those, but this is one of the most poignant things I have heard a basketball player speak on when in regards to Steph Curry. Quote, "The only person who knows what's coming out of the organized chaos is the one creating it." That is very poignant from Butler, because I think we're all in awe when a play breaks down and somehow the ball ends up in Steph's hands, or he makes this ridiculous shot and it's not really a play. Like, they're not running anything to get him open.
Yeah.
And it's chaos. And that's where the Warriors, like when they've been at their best, those chaos plays typically have gone their way. And I don't think it's a coincidence, which is what Jimmy is speaking to, that when that chaos is in abundance and you're seeing it multiple times around Steph, it's because he's the one he's in the eye of the storm. He is the storm. And that's where it's unpredictable, but it's really just a matter of time. And if you're another team, you're simply hoping that tornado just doesn't take you and sweep you away.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of Jimmy, how about Steph? Real quick on TNT, what does Jimmy bring to the table?
Jimmy's nice. Don't get that twisted. He's carried teams to the finals, and the idea of what he brings to us is another guy that's just comfortable with the ball in his hands to create for himself and for others. No matter what the situation is, you saw plenty of times he kind of made something out of nothing. You know, he is a legitimate ball handler where we can give it to him in space, on the post, at the elbow, wherever, and teams have to respect him. So if I can space and give him room and, just again, keep the defense honest, that helps. And we've had a really good chemistry since he's been here.
Man, it's worked out. That's Steph post-game on TNT. All right. Final thoughts here on Warriors wrap-up. Warriors take game 1, 95-85 versus the Houston Rockets. They now have 2 full days off to get ready for game number 3. 6:30 tip Pacific time, which means our pregame coverage on Wednesday begins at 5:30 with Warriors Live. But really, all day is going to be Warriors basketball, much like all day tomorrow will be Warriors basketball. I would imagine we'll have a lot of Warriors basketball on Tuesday as well here on 95.7 The Game. In terms of around the NBA, Evan, only 2 games tomorrow in the playoffs. Detroit at Knicks.
And then the best series in the playoffs.
Clippers at the Nuggets. Game 2 tomorrow, 7 o'clock that time. That game in Denver for game number 2. In terms of the series that Warrior fans probably should be caring about most other than the Warriors series, Minnesota Lakers game 2 is Tuesday. So they also had 2 days off between game 1 and 2. Of course, winner of that T-Wolves Lakers series plays the winner of this Warriors and Rockets series. And it is both road teams that have the edge there. Minnesota won game 1 kind of handily in LA on Saturday, and the Warriors win game 1 in Houston today. Both those teams are up 1-0, and maybe we have a couple of lower seeds headed for a meeting in the second round in the Western Conference.
Potentially, yeah. Also, one quick update. I do have confirmation that at some point tomorrow, so just keep an eye out for it. Moses Moody will be on 95.7.
Oh, okay. After a couple of big shots in the fourth quarter.
Yep. Stay on the tune. Keep an eye out for one of those two things for Moses Moody. He's going to be on the station tomorrow, so keep an eye out for that. As far as the other series, yeah, the Lakers one is actually pretty interesting to me. I don't think that series is over. I think if you're looking at, and I realize it's going to sound like a biased statement, but this series, with the way that the Warriors played tonight, how they took game 1, gives me confidence that they should beat Houston. Whether it's in 5, 6, 7, they should win this series. That series I don't necessarily know about because the Timberwolves hit every single shot in that game. And while they're the other team that was leading by 20 points or more as a road squad in game 1, the Warriors being, of course, the second, I'm not so sure that the Lakers are necessarily dead. They're a very feast or famine team, and that series to me comes down to just kind of a make or miss approach. So I think either way, the Warriors are in a good position because they've played both of those teams or the current iteration of the Lakers tough. And I certainly would rather have one of those two squads as opposed to the other matchup we're going to see tomorrow in the Clippers and the Nuggets. That looks like it's going to go to the distance. And whoever comes out of that series, I think has a good chance to upset the Thunder.
I mean, yeah, I definitely don't want to play the Thunder. I don't want to play the Clippers. I think of that group of 3, I'd rather play Denver. But Denver has given the Warriors a lot of problems as well. That game 2 is tomorrow, Clippers and Nuggets in Denver. But again, Warriors and Rockets game 2 is not until Wednesday. Lakers T-Wolves game 2 is not until Tuesday. And then the Warriors have 2 more days off after game 2 when they fly home and they get ready to take on the Rockets in game 3 coming up on Saturday at Chase Center. That's going to be a really fun basketball game. Can't wait for game 2, first of all. And then we'll have game 3 back here at home at Chase Center. All right. That'll do it for Warriors wrap up tonight. The Dubs knock off the Rockets 95-85. They win game 1, and they are 20-1 in postseason series when winning game number 1 under Steve Kerr. We'll see if they can make it 21-1. All right. For Chris O'Connell, for Cam Williams, for my partner Evan Giddings, my name is Mark Randy signing off. Thanks so much for joining and for interacting all night long. Be sure you're locked in bright and early tomorrow morning. The Morning Roast, 6 to 10, the 2 Joes, Spadoni and Shasky, Steiny and Goo from 10 to 2, Willard and Dibbs from 2 to 6. It'll be all Warriors all day long tomorrow here on 95.7 The Game. Until then, have a good rest of your Sunday and Easter. We'll talk to you next time on 95.7 The Game.
You know what's better than a limited time deal?